Struggling with debt? Bills, loans, credit cards? Need a way out? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. Free, impartial advice on all your debt matters.
Razabani for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. With me this afternoon on a very hot sunny day, I've got Fabio Wardley. Fabio, you right?
I'm good. How's things, mate? You all good?
I'm good. Enjoying the sun while it's here?
Yeah, a little bit. I was out and about in it a bit today, so nice. It's been nice weather.
Fabio, 9-0, 8 KOs now, ticking along nicely. I know linking up with Dillian has helped, obviously, get onto mainstream platform as well. But how do you assess, obviously, your last performance against Simon Vallily?
Good, really good. I was happy with it. There was nothing I really like. I've watched it back a few times now, and there's nothing too much I can pick at really of myself that I did too wrong, or there's little mistakes here and there. But like I say, I'm only 9 fights in. I'm still near on a novice, so I'm still working some kinks out and things. But other than that, I was happy with the performance. The only thing I maybe wanted a bit more from it was just a bit more of a challenge and some more ring time. But it kind of, like a lot of people were saying that I made it look easy, which then kind of takes away a bit from the credit I felt like I should have got from it a bit. But it is what it is. Like, it's no biggie. I got the win, and I'm happy with my performance. So yeah, it was good.
Is it hard because you go into the ring and at the end of the day you still want to learn, you want to gain as much experience as possible for those tough fights down the road, but you get in there, you just take your opponent out in a couple of rounds and it's over. You're ready to go again, more or less.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like the old saying is, you don't get paid for overtime in boxing. So you just take the opportunities when they come, and that's obviously a massive thing. Which a lot of my fights have all been finished in. I think all of my fights, bar one, have been finished under 3 or 4 rounds. So I've not really had that to push that much, and had to go that far into the late rounds and stuff. And you want to kind of get that done and dusted and get it out of the way as early as possible, really, in your career, because you don't want it to come at a late time where you're in the deep end and it's a hard fight and you don't know how far you can go or how much you've got left in the tank. So it is something I want to do, but again, you're never really going to grumble too much at an early stoppage.
I know you obviously fought at the notorious fight camp, and it was all glitter and glamour, but you had no fans there. And I know you fought on Dillian's other undercards where the O2 has been packed out. So was it different fighting without the fans, and does it make you a different fighter without the fans?
Me personally, no. It was weird because I expected it to feel a lot stranger than it did. But the only thing that felt particularly weird was the ring walk, because that's the only time that you're not really in like that kind of tunnel vision kind of zone of focused on your opponent, and you take that ring walk, you take the opportunity on that walk to kind of soak in the atmosphere, take in the energy from the crowd, your supporters, people saying your name and all of that. And that's that little moment where you kind of probably pay most attention to the crowd. And then once you're in the ring and the bell goes, then everything's gone, everything disappears. So it's tunnel vision from there on. So that was the only kind of strange moment of it. In the middle of the fight, it didn't play on my mind at all.
I know Eddie said, I think you were fight count week 2, I believe you were, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Were you week 1?
First one.
So I know there was talks about you coming on Dillian's undercard as well. So you're practically ready to go. It's been a few weeks now since. So any ideas of dates, location, or which card you're going to feature on next?
No, we're just playing around a bit. Like I say, it's difficult with the times of kind of where everything is at the moment. I know Eddie's released a few shows and things, and he's hoping to squeeze a few more in and stuff. But it's an odd one, because with where we thought we'd be in terms of live sports and boxing and things, we're a few steps back from that, because we thought we'd be moving forward, but now there's new lockdown rules and new engagement rules and stuff. So it's all a bit kind of in a funny place. But I'm fit, I'm ready, I'm waiting. Dill knows that, Eddie knows that. So when there's a good space, there's a good spot, then we know when we're going to go.
I was going to touch on that because obviously we've just come down from a a national lockdown where everything came to a standstill. And as fighters, we know you guys don't get paid unless you fight. So is this kind of scary times now? I know there were discussions today I saw on the news about potentially the volumes of virus increasing and deaths will increase eventually as well. So is it scary times that we might be going back into that zone again?
Yeah, it's not ideal in any case, is it? Like, we just, if anyone could, I think we just all want this over and done with and just be able to kind of get back to normality. And we've slowly been moving there, but if it comes back around again, then like realistically, what can we do? I try not to worry or grumble too much at those kind of things because it's out of everyone's control. We just kind of have to do what's best for everyone and safest for us as a nation, and just try and power through the situation and make do. Like you saw with Fight Camp, that was a great example of just us powering through the situation and being like, right, regardless of what's going on, we're still going to get our boxing out. The fighters are still going to fight. They're still going to earn some money and still going to get there. And if we get that a second wave or another let of lockdown, then we just have to do that again. That's all.
But also, obviously, Dillian, as your manager, obviously took that shock defeat to Povetkin. Rematch is happening. But before we even speak about the rematch, do you think it was a complete low for Dillian? Because obviously he's waited so long for that mandatory shot. And we just don't know. You know, the reality is, I know Mauricio Suleiman has come out and said the next mandatory for the WBC will not be due for at least another year. So even if Dillian was to beat Povetkin, it's at least another year, and hoping that there's no kind of crossroads when that year comes.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. That defeat would have hurt like kind of extra for a number of reasons, but obviously one of the biggest ones being that he was so close to finally getting that chance that he's so well deserved that he should have had a long time ago. But it's just the way the game goes, unfortunately. Like it's high risk, high reward, and Dill is a credit to himself and a credit to boxing in terms of being that type of guy that's willing to put it all on the line against them top tier opponents and willing to risk him all for the one, the glory, and two, for just putting on a good show for the fans that are going to pay for that and going to watch it. And I was talking about it with someone a few days ago, just to say that like Dill's never in a boring fight. Like whether he's going down, the opponent's going down, whatever, someone is going down, and no matter what's happening, the fans, supporters, whoever, we're all being entertained. So he's a credit to him, and it's a shame he doesn't get his kind of just rewards for all them fights before that he's put on the line and all them tests he's put himself through. But it's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Do you feel like the rematch is too soon? Because the nature of the defeat, do you feel like, and I know Dillian's a fighter, and I know he wants to get back in there and put the wrong right, but is he jumping in too soon with Povetkin? And we're talking, 13 weeks since the first fight?
I don't think it's too soon. No, like don't get me wrong. It wasn't a nice knockdown at all. It was a clean out and gone. But in the same sense, he didn't take massive amounts of punishment through any real point of that fight. There was just that one punch, and that clocked him, and he was gone from that. So it's not like he took an onslaught or a beating at all, or his body's been through a massive amount of kind of pain and stress and whatever. Don't get me wrong, that punch will have taken its toll and will do a bit to you. But I think 13, 14 odd weeks is ample time enough to kind of recover, recoup, and go through that again.
We know we were hoping to see Dubois, Joyce, another two heavyweights clash in this month of October. Well, in a couple of weeks in October. Looks like that's not going to happen now as well because of no live gate. Do you feel like that's going to be a big problem now moving forward for the next 6 to 7, 8 months where there's no live gate and these big fights can't happen? But in America, we are seeing people like Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko putting money aside, putting live gate aside and saying, listen, the best fight, the best, it's going to happen. It's going to happen now.
Yeah, of course. You're gonna have that. You're gonna see them fighters that are real fighters, real boxers who are willing to say, you know what, I'll take less money just to get this fight on, just to move my career forward, just to get that opportunity. Because otherwise, if we all just sit around and wait, the sport will die out. We as fighters will die out. Our careers will fade out. It's just everyone will be put back 10, 15, 20 steps. Like we need to take kind of responsibility in this and keep this sport as a whole going, and keep the vibe around it going, because like these past maybe 5-10 years have been massive for boxing. Like it's been like almost like revitalized and picked up again, and it's just been massive. There's been great fights and great entertainment, and the buzz around boxing as a whole has been building. So we as all boxers and everyone involved need to kind of take that on our shoulders and move forward with that, and be happy to take a little less money and just to get them fights on and keep things going. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a dangerous sport and everyone deserves every penny they can get, but at the end of the day, if you want to move your career forward, then you need to just kind of take that little bit less and move forward.
We know Eddie said himself that, he's got many fighters that want to go into those fights now, those 50-50 fights now. Some fighters are not ready, so they'll just wait until we can go back to having a live gate and he can put fighters in smaller fights. But with yourself now, what level do you think you're at now? The British, European, which level do you feel like you can mix in with now?
I'm around British level, yeah, definitely. I can take on pretty much any and all British level contenders. I have no issue with that, and Eddie knows that as well, and so does Dill. Like Eddie said in interviews before, Dill and me have never said no to any opponent they've suggested to me. I've always said yes. I'm always down for it. I'm good for it, and I think that's what Eddie likes about me and kind of Dillian and us as a whole, and everyone that he does have under him, that we don't say no. We're cool for anyone. You name them, we'll turn up and we'll be there and we'll do our job. And I think especially now more than ever is the time to kind of prove to people like Eddie and promoters around and just the boxing world that I'm willing to take those bigger fights, those riskier fights. I'm not trying to fight journeymen over 4-6 rounds, do that 2 or 3 times a year, maybe then test myself at the end of the year. If I want to go back to good, competitive, tough fights, then I'm willing to do that. And I think that's where boxers need to show that now, because when it does come around for the live gate is back, and then there's the opportunity to be in them big fights and earn the money. I think people like Eddie and other promoters and stuff will realise they'll give those opportunities to the ones that were willing to kind of risk it in the middle times and not just wait out the hard period and then come back at the end for when all the money's back.
I just want to get your opinion on Fury. Tyson Fury, obviously regarded as the #1 heavyweight on the planet at the moment. We know he's got his rematch with Deontay Wilder, but it seems like whenever we try to get these big clashes, these undisputed clashes, no matter what weight category is, the mandatory is always getting in the way. Fury went, I think it was yesterday before, did said in an interview that Joshua, do not let the WBO dictate our undisputed clash. If they say you have to fight Usyk as your next mandatory, then just vacate the belt and let's make the fight. We all want to see that fight, of course, but is it important for that fight to be for an undisputed clash, or just because it's Fury and Joshua, it suffices?
Yeah, of course. Just because it could be Fury and Joshua in a car park with no belts, like it wouldn't matter. The pretty much the whole of British boxing would be interested in that fight, would tune in and would want to watch. And the belts on top, they just add that extra level of spice and that extra level of kind of competition and that more to the show to make it that more glamorous. But whether Josh should vacate or not is a choice in his own, really. It's a difficult one to say, because he's worked hard for them belts, not just the fights with Ruiz, but before that, building up to that, putting all that time in and doing them fights and winning them belts and stuff. So to just say to someone, yeah, just throw that belt away, like it's nothing, is a difficult thing to kind of ask any fighter to do. Like you've worked hard for that, you've put blood, sweat and tears in for that belt. So it's difficult to say, oh, just cast it aside just because there's a bigger fight down the line. It doesn't mean it's the right or wrong thing to do, or you should or shouldn't, but there's just an extra level of kind of, you need to take a second with it and maybe consider your options, because it's a big choice to make, because you throw that belt aside, then now that belt's with someone else, and maybe you don't have the opportunity to even fight for it for 12, 18, maybe 24 months because of voluntaries, mandatories, then your fights and how that schedule works and everything that's going on in the world at the moment. You might not even get the opportunity to see that belt again for near on 2 years. So it's a difficult one to tell someone just to do that.
Obviously, we know that fight's not going to land in the UK. There's just not enough money, but obviously gutted for the fans and everybody who want it in the UK. But surely we can understand it from a fighter perspective. When you're getting paid 2-3 times the volume that you would generate in the UK, of course you'll fight abroad for that fight, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I know, and it's the old kind of the cliche of saying, oh, well, you're getting paid enough already, so you should just do it for the fans and things. And yeah, I understand there is that aspect of that. But at the end of the day, I think if you kind of weighed up any British fan and said, look, you can get X amount here, or we can give you 3 times more, what are you going to do? Like, which it's easy to be on the other side of the fence to say like, oh yeah, you should just do it here for the fans. But if you took that same person that's saying that and said, look, we're going to give you this amount of money, or we can give you 4 times as much, but if you do it over there, that person themselves isn't going to go, oh no, I'm just going to do it here for everyone. So it's easy for everyone to say, like when they're on the other side of the fence, when they're not the ones having to make that choice, but it's obvious. And again, like I said, fighters deserve to get the maximum they can get. Like at the end of the day, you're putting your life, your genuine life on the line. Like not so much kind of recently, but in the few years ago and things, we had a very rocky period of fighters being hurt a lot and going into comas and some dying and things like that. So it has been a rough period for boxing as well. So we've seen the fruits of that we need to they need that compensation up front, kind of that you can get X amount of money for them fights.
Okay, Fabio, appreciate you jumping on, give me a little bit of time this afternoon. We look forward to some fight news, hopefully. I know the Dillian Whyte card hasn't been fully announced yet. Dillian's obviously going to be fighting in November, so maybe you get the slot yourself and Babic on the undercard, and we look forward to hearing what's next for you.
Good, appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much.
Fabio Wardley for IFL TV. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
With that, bills, loans, credit cards. Need a way out? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. Free, impartial advice on all your debt matters.